What is up? It is Shoot the Gap. Back with me as always, Jorge Edwards, Hollywood Titan, Mike Wohlert, and our proud sponsor for the evening is Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen looks to be delicious, and they would get yelled at by Hollywood Titan too for probably ranking their blizzards in a different way than Hollywood would agree. He is probably the Reese's Pieces #1 overall, when clearly the Banana Split Blizzard is #1. But let's pivot from banana splits to just saying hi to the fellas. What's going on, guys?
What's going on?
So apparently I've entered some sort of spousal shit list for Hollywood. Apparently,
that's always a good way to start the show.
Well, the one thing that if anybody, first of all, welcome everybody. As I said, this is Shoot the Gap, the IDP podcast for the Fantasy and Frames Podcast Network. I'm Nate Markham, and we are going to be discussing what appears to be tumultuous topic of defensive back, early defensive back redraft rankings. Our top 15, if you're watching, you can see each one of ours across the board. We will systematically go through, break each one down, I guess complain to each other, maybe tell each other what they did wrong without them actually knowing what they did wrong. As Mike said, the husband and wife argument of, you know what you did, Jorge, we will just sit back and play the role of, I guess, domestic counselors when it comes to some of this defensive back rankings. But before we get started, or we could just be analysts with differing opinions. But okay, however you want to phrase that, we'll go with your way. Okay. As terrible, unactionable advice. Just have to play media.
No, the unactionable advice comes later in the show for me. I'm just kidding.
That is true, Booger. Dynamite drop in again, as always. We will continue on. There is news this week, though, guys. Believe it or not, we are now getting close enough where between signings and retirements and OTAs and everything else, we actually have something. So, unfortunately, which has affected this directly, at least it affected myself, probably you other two, we don't know. Khari Willis retires. He is going, you know what? He's going to do the Lord's work. And how can you be, upset? He got his years in with the NFL. He has a higher calling than what the NFL can provide, and he's going to pursue that. So I applaud him. I think that, I had him as high as my top. I think I had him at 7 or 6. Mike, you said you had him at 4?
I had him at 4.
How about you, Hollywood? Did you have him in your top 15? Of course you didn't. Why would you? Jorge, how about you?
I don't remember, to be honest. No, he was not in my top 15. No, he was not. Okay. In redraft now.
Looks like circle takes the square. Me and Mike win that battle. Khari Willis was a top 15. Or maybe you guys were onto something. You knew in advance. You were ahead of the curve. You were playing in the clairvoyant retirement.
I'm always ahead of the curve. Always.
See, we went to the #1 resource or source in the world, and that's church. And the Lord spoke down to us and told us, do not put Khari Willis in your top 15.
That's right.
And I'm waiting for the lightning to come strike down.
I'm going to go ahead and sign out now before
lightning comes and destroys all of us.
Exactly. Yeah. Good Lord. We're in it. I would tell you the pivoting news from retirement to getting paid buku bucks. Minkah Fitzpatrick now becomes the highest paid safety in the league. Is Minkah deserving of the highest paid safety, Jorge?
No. Well, I don't. I mean, I don't think he is. I think there are a lot of better ones. Obviously there's the health concerns with Derwin James, who I think all of us are pretty high on. He had a great year last year. He was very versatile. He's always been versatile. But that's a lot of can't say that. Yeah,
it is. But you know what it does is it sets the bar even higher. And maybe, and I don't know how contracts work with franchise tenders. Does that make Jesse Bates's franchise tender different now that he signed and it set that that higher number? It was when they go in and they do set these franchise tenders. Was it based off of pre-Minka Fitzpatrick signing? If someone smarter than me is listening and they know the answer, go ahead and chime in. If not, Hollywood, I'll ask you this. Jesse Bates not signing the franchise tender. Are you worried? And let's talk both. Redraft and Dynasty. Redraft, do you speculate anything at all with him not signing it yet?
No, because I think we still got time, right? I mean, we're not into that danger zone, redlining where time's up. But
and let's be honest, he's 25. He needs
right.
he knows he plays, and he has another season like last year, and he's getting paid, and he has Minka's money to use as a barometer now.
Right. And for everything that Cincinnati's done right, this is the one thing they've done wrong, right? They should have went ahead and locked him up last year and done this. So this is kind of on them. This is their one, we screwed up. And a lot of times you can fix those, but I don't know that this is one of those times that you can fix this.
So they might have put a little
he knows
patch.
it.
Yeah.
He knows it. He's willing to gamble on himself. Once the season gets here, I think he's going to play, but I think this will be the last season in Cincinnati. If it comes to that, this will be it in Cincinnati because he's fixing to break the bank in free agency next year.
So Mike, is Dax Hill the Band-Aid that they're going to put on that will step in and take that role next year?
Probably. That's what it's looking like, where they'll let Von Bell walk and bring in and keep Jesse Bates if they were smart. Then that's the move that they would do. And Jesse Bates probably is texting Minka saying, thank you very much
exactly
for the contract you just signed, because Minka Fitzpatrick had a lot of tackles, but he only had 2 picks when he's averaged about 5. And he had a career low in defended passes. So I don't think tackles necessarily make you a good player. You're kind of at the right place at the right time, considering also he plays a little deeper than most safeties. So, I don't consider him, an 18, 19, $20 million a year player. Last year, all of the tackles were in the right place at the right time. Pittsburgh's pass defense was a very meh. He played 911 free safety snaps, so those tackles aren't going to be coming again. So I think you're definitely going to see a regression in tackles. Maybe a little bit more big plays, but no, Bates is the one guy. I'd be paying Bates if I were Cincinnati. I think he's proven to be much more valuable.
Yeah, I would agree. And like you said, Minka, of every player that we all have in our top 15, however many of that players was that 13, 17, 20, we have 23 different players in our top 15s cumulatively. Minka has the lowest amount of box snaps of any of the safeties / corner. I didn't include JC Jackson or Jalen Ramsey just because I felt that wasn't a fair exercise. Speaking of exercise, Derwin James need to continue to exercise that shoulder that he had labrum surgery on. I don't think I'm worried. Any of you guys worried at all? It's Derwin James. We know he's, kind of banged up, but even in limited seasons, he can still finish as a DB1 overall.
Yeah, I'm worried. Are you kidding me? The man sneezes. I'm like, oh my God, what did he break? Okay. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not that worried, but I thought that was just humor on my part there.
It is humorous. And
let's hope he doesn't break a humorous bone.
Oh, love it.
That was excellent. That was pretty... Yes, sir.
I was going to say, if I could have a minute before we get to the rankings, I want to talk a little bit about our charity tournament.
Sure.
Or I'm sorry, for the Fantasy Football Expo. That's what I want to talk about. So for everybody who went last year, we were raffling off some awesome autographed merchandise. We had Antonio Gibson, we had Jordan Poyer, we had Michael Carter helmets, and many helmets autographed that we raffled away for donations to our charity tournament before that championship. And so today, just now, a few minutes before the show started, I opened a box from Pristine Auction, and I wanted to show everybody what we're actually going to be raffling off this year. Okay, So right now, we have an autographed Elijah Mitchell 49ers helmet, which looks really good, which I may actually, now that I think about it, may want to keep because it does look really nice. But yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about our charity that we're going to do and then talk.
Totally selfless. Yeah, exactly.
No problem.
And Gabe Davis, nice little fantasy football sweetheart. I got to find a better word than sweetheart. That's not really very football-ish talk. But so we got a couple of those, maybe a few more coming our way to raffle off at the Fantasy Football Expo. And we're going to be at the booth number 4 on the outside, one of the premier booths. So come check us out and get your raffle tickets.
Nice. And then, honestly, as far as news goes, that pretty much wraps it up. I want to go around, you guys. I put a little poll out on Twitter. Obviously, it sounds like Nick Bolton is changing numbers to number 32. That is not exactly relevant news, but the fact that he's going to wear the green dot and play Mike this year, I want to trust Steve Spagnuolo, but I don't think I can to keep Bolton on the field for as much as I would like. Wearing the green dot is a good indicator, considering there's really not another person that I feel like they would trust inherently to do so right now. That to take him off. But yes or no, Jorge, and you trusting Spags to maybe give Nick Bolton the platform to maybe finish as a high end LB2.
I mean, look what Bolton was able to do last year, and that was not given, the prime treatment there by Spagnuolo. He kind of had to earn his way onto the field, and in whatever limited fashion he had, he was productive. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, and I'm pretty excited that Bolton's going to be in the middle. Absolutely.
Hollywood Mike, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Well, I had Bolton as my LB16, so I'm good.
And that's pretty. I think that's about a perfect spot for him there. I'm happy because I want to see him on the field more. And last but not least, rookie Sauce Gardner paid $50,000 to get a new number. He's going to wear number 1. Do you guys like a corner wearing number 1? Jorge, you're shaking your head no. So I'm guessing you're old school. You don't want single digits.
I want 20s. That's what I want. Most people are like, I want hundreds, but I want 20s. I want 20s. I want some 31s in there. I'm not a big fan of this. Any player can choose any number they want. Malarkey. That's just not how I was brought up there, Nate.
Mike, is $50,000 a good amount? Would you give up your number for $50,000 as a professional
athlete?
Gave
not
me
as money? Yes, once again, that's a smart investment. $50,000. Smart investment by Sauce. Way to start coming in hot with your cash. But if someone offered me $50K, they can have my helmet. They can have everything.
Hollywood.
Well, I'm kind of split here. I'm with Mike. Knowing my skill set, if you're giving me $50,000, you can have it. You can have whatever you want. But if I'm a top player, if I'm a good player, 50,000 is not cutting it.
I think it was DJ Reed. Is who he.
Well, if I'm DJ Reed, I'm taking the money. But if I'm a good player and somebody comes at me, you know what I mean? If I'm a good player, it's going to cost you to get my number.
Yeah. Well,
I'm greedy like that.
That's okay. Be greedy. Absolutely. I can't wait.
Love don't go cheap.
No, exactly.
The $1 million man said, "Everybody's got a price."
Everybody's got a price.
There we go.
That's exactly right. Guys, let's get into some rankings because it seems like, from what I've gathered, is that we don't all necessarily agree on who our top 15 is. And just for an exercise purpose, I went through and looked at everybody, as I said, everybody's top 15. Only 5 players are on all of our top 15 lists. Derwin James, Jamal Adams, Budda Baker, Jordan Poyer, Harrison Smith. Kind of the who's who of defensive backs. They've always kind of just been there. That doesn't surprise me. There's 8 players that are on 3 of the 4. So then there's one person missing out, doesn't have one of the following: Jeremy Chin, Jesse Bates, Justin Simmons, Von Bell, Minka Fitzpatrick, Kenny Moore II, Jalen Thompson, and Kevin Byard. Again, some of those names I think, okay, the difference between 15th and 16th isn't that far, but maybe we'll get into how much further some of them down. There's 4 or 5 of them that only 2 of us have, and that's Kyle Duggar, Jonathan Abram, Logan Ryan, Antoine Winfield, and J-Ron Kearse. And then the list of the 6 that is only on each one of ours is Jordan Whitehead, Tracy Walker, Grant Delpit, Jalen Ramsey, Xavier McKinney, and J.C. Jackson. Let's start with them, guys. Let's start with why. And number one, let's start with J.C. Jackson. Hollywood, you made your case pre-show about J.C. Jackson, and I think it'd be interesting for people to hear why, if you're going to go with a corner in this situation, why J.C. Jackson?
Yeah, so, I mean, let's not get it twisted, right? Corners are a dime a dozen. You can pretty much go out and pick up a corner anywhere, off of any team. If you do just a little bit of work, you can pick up value, right? But I mean, you look at Jackson, like we were talking before we jumped on. He's headed into year 5, and he's had 3, 5, 9, and 8. 25 career interceptions, 6, 10, 14, and a league leading 23 pass deflections last year. So 53 on his career. That's 78 impact plays just in the passing game. Screw the tackles for loss, sacks, whatever. 78 impact plays in the passing game. And I don't know that you can find anybody that's comparable to that, especially at corner. I mean, if I'm willing to take a risk on a high pick for a corner, I think J.C. Jackson's it. I know they have Adrian Phillips. I know they have Kyle Duggar, which we may talk about later. But generally, when a corner is playing that well, teams tend to shy away from him, right? This dude can play. He's making plays. Let's go over here and look, or let's see what we can do here. And that's really not been the case. And I don't think it's going to change. Like I said, I think he's the anomaly here, right? Because what did I say to begin with? You can find corners anywhere. So fantasy-wise, until he's not doing it, I think he's worthy of the pick. Now, it's not like I had him in the top 10, but I think he's worthy of a top 15 in redraft. Now, if we're talking dynasty, I don't quite feel that way, right? But if you're in a redraft, and I just think with his impact plays, I think it makes sense. He's worth a look there. So I've got him at what? I've got him at 12. So it's not like I've got him in the top 5 or whatever. But
right.
And like I told you guys earlier, I started to leave him out because corners are everywhere. But I just thought if there was a corner, he would be the guy.
Hollywood.
Go ahead.
Hollywood.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
No.
Oh, no, seriously, can you?
I hear you.
All right. So you brought up Adrian Phillips and Kyle Duggar. Who do you think J.C. Jackson plays for?
Well, he's in not San Diego Chargers now, but
yeah. Okay.
I still don't think that changes because he's still the lead dog, right?
Mike, were you bringing up Cincinnati again?
I think so. Yeah, I was.
I get what you're saying. I just don't think his situation out there changes because here's why, right? And they've got a much better pass rush with Bosa and Khalil Mack, right? He didn't have that in New England by any means. He did not have that up there. So when you've got a couple of bookends that are just beating down on the quarterbacks, what happens when you have good pass rushers? They hurry them up. That clock gets to ticking a little faster. They make mistakes. They've got those two bookends, not real good at linebacker. I just don't think it changes much for him. Yeah. I just don't.
Well, if you're going to
maybe they don't target him as much, but I think that pass rush is a factor. I think that's a huge factor.
Yeah, the corners will be interesting because Asante Samuel had a really good season, even as a rookie. So
Right.
it's kind of going to be a pick your poison on who they cover. I
Because
guess
you're
my
not
only
going deep, right? With Derwin James, you're not going to go
Yeah.
back there. You've got two bookends with Bosa and Mack.
I
You
guess
don't
my
really
concern
have a whole
with
lot
Jackson.
of linebacker.
Yeah, I guess my only concern with Jackson being ranked that high is the just because even in a DB general league, I guess what's the scoring? What did you do the scoring based on? Did you use the fantasy and frame scoring? I'll be honest, I didn't take a quick look at it, but even in a league, say we got 4 points for a pick, a couple points for a defended pass. In a DB general, even with his huge pass defended numbers and what 8 interceptions last year, he finished as the DB 38. So I guess that's my concern that is he going to make that big?
Right,
of a
and
lead?
I kind of go by IDP Nation scoring,
Okay.
right? Because that's what I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
And like I said, I would be completely okay just leaving him completely off the top 15. I have no qualms about that whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just kind of how I'm wired because I play so many leagues where I don't play general position, right? I play specific. So you have to start at corner.
Right.
So I guess maybe that's some of my thinking too. So if you're required to start a corner, I think you got to put him in.
Oh, he's a weekly starter.
Close. Right.
Yeah, and that's if you're talking about defensive backs and that pivots over Jorge, you have Jalen Ramsey. I'm going to guess is probably for similar reasons that he is J.C. Jackson, and that he's just at such an elite level of production that, given the if he's tested rationale, he is pretty. I mean, he's your 15. What's your case for Jalen Ramsey?
Jalen Ramsey almost didn't make my top 15, and the reason why he does is because he moves everywhere. He follows people. He's not just a one side of the field cornerback. He's not like a Sherman or the cornerbacks in the Legion of Boom back in the day in Seattle. Like he will go find wherever the best wide receiver is or whoever's the most targeted wide receiver in an offense, and will go get those tackles.
That's why I said I would feel okay leaving him off, and I think for a corner he's the anomaly. I really do.
I think there's 3. We have 3 different corners listed on this out of every one of our 15s. It's Jalen Ramsey, J.C. Jackson, and Kenny Moore. Kenny Moore is the anomaly in the fact that as a slot corner and one that from a tackle volume perspective, that is the difference. J.C. Jackson, we talk about the 23 passes defensed. Kenny Moore, we talk about the 80-plus solo tackles, which is just a rarity to get from defensive backs. Is it repeatable? That was my concern going into last year, and really even kind of going into this year. But it sure feels like it is. And that's again, if you have a cornerback, like for me, if it's a cornerback-centric position, Kenny Moore is probably my number 1 pure corner of the 3, and it would probably follow suit. But again, like Hollywood said, kind of dime a dozen. That's why the majority of these are all safeties. And I want to talk about a safety. Mike, you have Grant Delpit, and I defended you before. I believe that these 2 yahoos were like homer pick. He loves Cleveland. And I said, no, it's because Mike is super smart, because he saw a trend last year that the last 3 weeks Grant Delpit played in the box 3 times as much as he did any week prior outside of week 4. Is that a trend that you were seeing, or Mike, do you just really, truly love the Cleveland Browns enough to put Grant Delpit in your top 15?
Yeah, I mean, it's that trend, and they play 3 safeties, and he's the one that I think is going to be the multifaceted guy. Ronnie Harrison is okay. He'll probably play up in the box. John Johnson is going to continue to play the deep role. And I know it's OTAs and it's, they're playing in shorts, but everything that I've seen in the shorts and how he's performing, he's going to make some plays this year. And I always say, even though they're playing in shorts, we shouldn't pay attention. If it's going to fit my narrative, I'm gonna I'm gonna promote it. And I'm gonna bellow it. So it's fitting my narrative. So
That
with Delpit, yeah. I mean, he's now almost 2 years removed from Achilles. They were really smart with him last year. They eased him back in. He had a really solid finish, and I think really he makes good tackles, and I think the sky's the limit for him. And yeah, I think like I said, that I've got in my top 15.
makes sense to me. And so, friend of the show, Sean Teague, has a question for you, Mike. And we think we know the answer based off your rankings, but Javon Holland over Grant Delpit. I don't know if that's a question. I'm going to say that's a statement. And I think it's him calling you out, saying he's going to take Javon Holland, who, by the way, that secondary in Miami is extremely awesome. If you want more to read on Javon Holland or Brandon Jones, go over and read Jorge's new article at Fantasy and Frames, the IDP Dynasty Target of Brandon Jones, where he highlights some of the heavy blitz usage in Miami, Javon Holland's ability to get to the quarterback, his overall impact plays in the secondary. Both, he didn't really talk as much about Javon Holland, but he alludes to some of that. I've been kind of excited. That secondary is exciting. I don't know if it's totally repeatable. We'll see. And we say repeatable. He backed me up on the Kenny Moore is proven to repeat, which is why, of course, he's super smart and obviously listens to everything that we all have to say, at least what I have to say. And that's why, why we're going to be best friends. And especially because he goes as far as saying Hollywood Titan. You got Jalen Thompson at 2nd overall. Did you guys not drug test Hollywood? We do not drug test on this show. We feel that's against your rights, so we don't do that. I don't want to. I think we'll get into Jalen Thompson here in just a minute, so we'll circle back to that because he's an intriguing player. Mike says he wouldn't touch him with I believe it was
39.5.
39.5-inch
going.
Going. No, that half is key. That half is key.
Here, can I address
the Grinch?
Was it Teague?
Yes, Sean.
Sean Teague.
Grant Delpit had similar numbers last year to Javon Holland in fewer snaps. Grant Delpit had 770 snaps. Javon Holland did his numbers in 1,034.
Oh, so you're saying maybe there's a little more efficiency with Grant Delpit. There is no Magic Mike Wohlert dance yet we will get there when we talk about his potential defensive back perfect draft that includes Grant Delpit, I don't even know, Kyle Duggar, and who's another late one he'd get, probably insert the third, doesn't matter, off on a tangent, don't want to go that far. But as we talked about some of them, there's a few, one of the names, Jorge, you and Mike, I believe. I need to take that down. Thank you so much so I can see the screen there. Apologies to everybody. There's a couple in here. Kyle Duggar is a person who is ranked by two of you guys. Now, I have him at 16. It's the one area of this that we have to probably, I don't want to say specify, but if I have a person at 16 or Jorge or Hollywood or Mike, you do, I don't think that's like getting shit on for the player. I'm not trying to say that. And so I wanted to specify.
Oh, no, you are. You hate him. So, I mean.
I hate Kyle Duggar. I hate, yes. I mean, there's nothing to hate about Kyle Duggar. Right, Jorge? Right, Mike?
I mean, no. Mike, you want to go first?
You have him the highest, Jorge.
Fair enough. I mean, look, he had a 12.6 tackle rate. His missed tackle rate was relatively low compared to his total tackle rate and solo tackle rate. In fantasy and frame scoring, he was a DB 20. And I think the thing that really impressed me is you look at the snaps compared to Adrian Phillips last year. I want to say he surpassed him. So he was very much so prominently featured in this secondary for New England. And I don't see why anybody would worry about anyone coming to take his job or come to, they're not changing him in any position. They're not moving him around anywhere. He's firmly planted where he was successful last year. And I don't see why that's going to change this year.
Yeah. Another person who's listed on only 2, and I have him off mine, Hollywood, I believe you have him off yours as well, is Jonathan Abram. And as much as I love Jonathan Abram, the player, I think that he is, if someone wants to get into IDP, and they said, I just need to know who should I watch? Or, I want to get an IDP. I need to start watching more. I would probably just put on a tape of Jonathan Abram and say, watch this guy play football and tell me that that's not a love fest with just anger that he has and hitting hard. You might see him run into a camera. You might see him get hurt. There's a decent chance of that. But did that go into, Mike, your decision at all? Do you eliminate the injury risk with Jonathan Abram just because of the pure overarching ability that he has?
I try to factor in injuries also, but at the same time I don't, because I know injuries are going to happen, but I try not to be a little bit more rosy, have the rose colored glasses, and say, hey, this person's going to play 15, 16 games. And had he not missed some time, he probably would have been a DB5 and potentially a DB1. But I guess my only concern with him is the newer defense, so how he's going to be used. But I think as long as he's healthy, I'm hoping they kind of take a look at how he played and they continue to use him how he was used last year. I mean, the linebacker group in Vegas is meh at best. And I think he's someone you want to keep on the field because he is a big hitter, very physical player. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
Now, Hollywood, one of the players that you have on your 15 is a person who 2 years ago was a rookie. I was very high on him. I thought that he was going to step right in and I don't want to say be an immediate IDP like value as a rookie. There was people in his way. That's Xavier McKinney. What do you think Xavier McKinney's role is? He's a deep safety more than one in the box, which is a rarity on this list. Like I said, most of the guys here that we talk about when we're talking about snaps average somewhere between 250 and 350, and McKinney was at about 150. Does his role change? Is it Julian Love still up at the box, or do you think that this is his excel into that Pro Bowl type player that he was hyped to be?
Yeah, I think you're kind of seeing this trend to that way, right? When he first got there, they had Jabril Peppers. So I think that kind of took away from him. He was kind of hurt as a rookie, which kind of took away from him. I think Julian Love has shown he can be a piece that he's a chess piece, right? They'll mix match, put him wherever. As far as McKinney goes, he's going into year 3. So, he's only 22 years old. Won't be 23 until August the 9th. So, huge jump from rookie year to second year. And I think you see more, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this later, but I'm looking at the impact plays. 5 interceptions, 10 pass deflections, a touchdown return, a tackle for a loss. So while tackles is what you're looking at, also those impact plays is big, right? I mean, he made huge strides from year 1 to year 2, and I think he only gets better. I think he's on the uptrend. I think you can still get him at a good value because a lot of people are not sold on him, right? Maybe, I've got him in my top 10 and not everybody does. So I think with that in mind, in a redraft especially, you're getting great freaking value.
Yeah. Thing is, I have no problem with McKinney. I want to see it. I would like to see it first. Would be nice. But I think that's one of the opportunities that you're going to have is by your ranking of having him where you do, it's about a 95% certainty that he's going to be on probably 70 to 80% of all of your IDP leagues, simply because you're going to have him higher than the majority. And you can probably wait till just a round before ADP and get yourself what you have envisioned, maybe as a defensive back 1 or even a high end 2. Again, I apologize that I don't have, all of the ADPs like you do, Hollywood. I should probably gather that for this exercise. So what we need to do is go back in time 3 weeks ago to before we did all this, and I could come more prepared. And then,
Well, I'm curious because I have him at 9, right?
Yep.
And I'm the only one that has him in the top 15. So I'm really curious to see why you three don't have him in the top 15. I get it, don't have him in the top 10. That I can understand. But why is he not in your top 15? He's young, talented, trending upward. I mean,
oh, I love your ranking on McKinney. I like him. I have him as my DB 23, but I have him in that DB2 tier. He's not someone that I am going to use as an anchor as my first DB and trust him as my DB1, but I have no problem with him as my DB2.
Yeah,
he's not going to be my first DB off. He's not going to be my first DB off the board, or he's not going to be my DB1.
Well, I guess it depends on where the draft falls too, though, right, Mike? I mean, I kind of get what you're saying. You're not taking him above James or Smith or Bates or Adams or Poyer, but I think when you start getting into that 10 beyond range, I think I like his value there, especially where you can draft him, like I said, because clearly you three are not sold on him like I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm in a draft, I'm playing that. I'm like, okay, if the four of us are in a draft, and I'm like, okay, I need a safety here, James and whatever's going here. I know I can already tell that the three of you are not as high as I am, so I've already got him targeted, right? Let him slide. Where I can get value, I'll take him all day. Now, granted, like Mike said, I don't necessarily want him as my one overall if there's better players above, but once those guys are gone, if I can get him at the right value, I'll take it all day long.
I mean, I took him in one of my leagues as a DB2, and he finished right where I ranked him this year as 22. So,
yeah, I mean, as a whole on the season, I don't think anybody's. I love to see the production jump. Obviously, in 2019 was a lost season. 2020 he'd get 6 games, but in 17 games, 16 of which he started, he had 93 tackles, a tackle for a loss, the 11 passes defensed, and 5 interceptions. Proven.
I'm just leery on the tackle efficiency. There's no doubt he can play and he can make big plays. But it's the tackle efficiency that has me a little bit leery.
And that's understandable.
But he's also getting the volume too, right?
Yeah, but he's getting the volume, but he's inefficient. I mean, if he plays 1,100 snaps, he only has 85 tackles. That's about a 7-8% tackle rate. If I'm going to trust somebody as my DB1 that's going to get tackles, I need them around 10%.
And that's
just me, especially with I need the tackles.
That's kind of where he was at last year, 9.7% missed tackle rate.
An 8.2 total tackle rate.
Yeah, the total tackle more so than the missed tackle.
I'm looking at his missed tackle rate, and maybe we're looking at two different things, but
no, you're right. He had exactly what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 9.7 missed tackle rate.
From what I've been seeing, for any player, if you can get under 10, if you're under double digits, you're doing pretty well, right? I think 10 to 15, you're kind of average, and 15 beyond, we don't even care. But I think if you can get under 10, that's manageable. No, but that's workable.
When I talk
it's higher than this.
Talking about efficiency, I'm talking about tackle to snap rate. And
got you.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, missed tackle. No, he's.
No, I got you.
If he's near the ball, he's going to make the tackle. But I'm talking about like just his tackle per snap rate. If I need my DB1, I need them to be in that 9 to 10% area range, or I need to see some upside for it. So, like I said, McKinney, I love McKinney coming out. I thought he was going to be a box safety, and there's still, who knows how Wink Martindale's going to use him, and he could very well lead the league in interceptions this year.
Yeah, exactly, and that might be. That's going to be the question too. Is what Wink's going to do with that defense? There's a lot of questions. Yeah. Does he have will he have that heavy blitz type scheme without some of the players that he is used to trusting to be able to execute that heavy blitz? And I think he does, but I think that we have to be, tempering a little expectations. And, you make a good point about the tackle rate. And I want to talk about a guy who, if you talk about tackle rate and Jorge, let's see, where do you have him at? You don't, and I don't. So I apologize. It's Jorge. when you look at tackle, what is your take on Tracy Walker as far as where do you have him on your rankings? Do you have your rankings available?
Yeah, let me pull them up right now. I have him at 16, actually.
So,
So I dove into his numbers a little bit earlier in the season when I was doing my Dynasty Risers and Fallers piece at defensive back. And so, his first, let's go back 3 seasons. He was playing free safety, but he was playing closer to the line of scrimmage, which is odd. And he got great fantasy production. And then last year he had a little injury, foot injury. I shouldn't say a little injury, but he had a foot injury that got in his way. They were using him out of position. They had him more in coverage. Let's flip that around. Sorry. When he was successful, he was in free safety. He was in coverage. He was making all his tackles. He was very efficient with his tackles, winning coverage, playing up against the line of scrimmage, going after the run, trying to sniff out those run plays. Not his forte. Had a high missed tackle rate. Last year, they tried to keep him exclusively closer to the line of scrimmage, which just didn't work. Like I said, they were using him out of position, or 2 years ago in 2020. Then last year, he came back healthy. He was the exact same player he was from 3 years ago. He was great in coverage. He had a high total tackle rate, a low missed tackle rate when in coverage, playing zone. So I'm pretty high on him. Obviously, I have him at 16. He's not too far out of the top 15. I just get concerned with the missed tackle rate, with the inefficiency when he's asked to do other things besides playing in coverage. Fortunately, he's going to be playing in coverage a lot because the defense is going to be kind of exploded there in Detroit for seasons to come. So it's really tough with IDP because you have to think about the pros and cons. It's like, okay, how good of a player is this player actually, and how bad of a situation are they in, which can actually the team that they're on, that is, can really help them from a fantasy perspective. And so for the short to medium, 1 to 2 years, maybe 3. I'm expecting Detroit not to be a good team, so he's kind of good in a good situation for him on a bad team overall. If that were to change, and you saw him less on the field, could he make up for that tackle efficiency? I don't know. I'm the jury's still out. I'm kind of leaning towards the no, but it's because of that inefficiency that I left him off my top 15.
Yeah, and I there was that span from weeks 2 through 4, 2 through 5, somewhere on there, where he was getting subbed out quite a bit, and he finished the season extremely strong. And I wonder, and that was one of the questions, Mike, I was going to ask you a little bit. Does end of season production trickle into next season projections or rankings?
Well, I mean, I prefer someone to end the season on a high note than maybe a low note.
Yeah.
Right.
That's certainly, why did he play poorly? Did he play poorly because of an injury, or, just play poorly now? He's just, you're looking at the PFF grades. You're like, yep, this guy sucks now. So he's done for. So
he's an orange. Leave him off.
Yeah. He's in the red. So it's like, all right, well, it's like Toy Story, and Andy is done playing with Woody. I'm throwing him in the trash. That's pretty much what all DBs are anyway.
So I think that question would kind of apply more to rookies, right? End of the season type deal, because you're looking.
Yeah, rookies, second year, third year players.
Rookies, exactly.
Yeah.
Now my thing with Walker, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but we've kind of seen it. To me, he's kind of topped out, right? I mean, Jorge said it. 2019, he was a free safety, 103 tackles, 6 for a loss, 1 pick, 8 pass deflections. Kind of transitioned a little bit more to the stronger side, 108 tackles, 3 for a loss, 1 interception. I don't know, and I guess that's why I left him off my list. I don't know that he's going to be better than that. And if that's his kind of top end, I can find 15 better safeties. Mm-hmm. Now, not saying he's horrible, but I would put him in tier 2. He's not tier 1 for me.
Yeah. And I feel like he's one of the, kind of the more I don't know.
He's a polarizing guy. He's one of the many polarizing guys.
Yeah, like I honestly, he was one of the names that I had expected to see in that 2 of the 4 was going to have him on their list. I didn't expect all 4 to be on there, but there has to be somebody left out. And we had a special little shout from a very good friend of all of ours. Oh, Doug.
Dougie.
Hey, buddy. That's so good. That's such a good group of people in here with us right now. And he also mentions he loves seeing one of his favorites, and Kyle Duggar as a great call, of course, and Justin Simmons. Love seeing Justin Simmons that high. Let's see, who has Justin Simmons the highest? Is that me?
No.
It is.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
13.
but he's, again, Simmons is one of the ones that is on, or he's not on your top 15.
No.
Is he 17, 18? Or you have an opinion on Justin Simmons that you want everybody with?
Justin, who I have him at 18. Currently in my rankings. I'm playing, and I wrote this in the Brandon Jones article earlier this week at fantasyandframes.com. Nice little plug there. At the end of the day, we can talk about X's and O's and positions and alignments and all this other advanced, stuff. At the end of the day, though, I want to tie this information. I want to tie this on-field production to fantasy point production. So I was kind of playing to my fantasy scoring settings that, in terms of how I'm like evaluating how important this player is compared to other players. And I was using the Fantasy and Frames scoring, and he just wasn't somebody who I was particularly high on, whether it's doing the projections or looking at him last season.
Yeah. I look at him and I see just I'd love not having to guess where my meal is going to come from. I like knowing that there's going to be food on the plate as soon as I want to make that pick. And, each year going back to 2018, it's at least 80 tackles. Each year going back to 2018, it's at least 3 interceptions with as high as 5. You sprinkle in a couple highs and lows. 18 was a down year as whole for passes defensed, but you fast forward to 2019 and he had 15. So, I mean, again, I don't want to use 15 as the ceiling, but I think that's kind of the outlier. I think somewhere around 9 to 10 is probably more likely. While I do believe that they will probably be better on offense this year, I think that's kind of goes without saying. Does that mean that he might be asked to defend the pass, maybe not be in the box as much in passing, plays? I don't foresee. I don't think anything changes this year from him. I think the snap share will still be there. I think the solid production floor will still be there. And is he? What do I got him at 6? See, and then it's comfortable. He's like a blanket. Just makes me feel comfortable knowing that I have something. The person who I have after him is Jordan Poyer, who we all 4 have in. And Mike, you have him as your number 2. Are you concerned right now? He's in a little bit of the whole sitting out thing right now as well. Again, number 1, I guess, talk about that just briefly because it's so early. But 2, just we can hype up Jordan Poyer a little bit. I feel like he's kind of underappreciated, and I know Doug doesn't like Jordan Poyer, so that's gonna make me feel good. You build him up too.
Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, Poyer attended the mandatory camp, so he did make a sighting. I mean, as of right now, I don't know what's happening with a contract. So, but he's a guy that has finished on an average of like a DB4 over the last several years. So, he's pretty consistent. And that's what I like for redraft is the consistency. Got to have a little bit of upside and a little bit of, got to have some upside. That that's why I have Delpit in there. But yeah, Poyer, if he, it's the consistency. You can almost bank on 9,500 tackles, the defended passes, a nice sprinkling of all different types of stats.
It's funny you say that because last year there were 3 defensive backs that had 80 plus tackles, 2+ sacks, and 5+ passes defended. Jordan Poyer is one. There are 2 others. Can you guys name those 2 others? Jorge, first guess.
80 tackles.
What was the passes defended number?
5.
82 and 5, right?
82 and 5.
Jamal Adams.
Incorrect.
Safety?
Yep. Well, defense. Yeah, they're all safeties.
Jeremy Chin.
Oh,
No.
no.
Kenny Moore?
No. He didn't have the sacks.
Oh, right.
Derwin James.
Derwin James is one.
Wouldn't be Logan Ryan, would it?
Huh?
Wouldn't be Logan Ryan, I don't think.
Nope, it's not Logan Ryan. It's a person who, according to everything, had a down year.
Buddha
Baker.
Buddha.
In the down year, he had 98 tackles, 2 sacks, and 7 passes defensed, which just, again, I mean, that for all shits and giggles, all intents and purposes, those has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that if you're looking for stat fillers, those are 3 consistencies that I found. And it's a good segue from Buddha Baker to going back to a question that we had at the very beginning from Sean in regards to Jalen Thompson. Now, Mike, I'm going to start you because you don't feel that it's repeatable. And that is it's a fair statement. You have your own evaluation of that. Anything more than just I don't trust it?
I mean, in his rookie, he had 57 tackles in 15 games. He was hurt 2020, and then all of a sudden he explodes. I don't know. That's a pretty big outlier. So I'm just not. If he repeats the number, then fine. I'll tip the cap and say, hey, I was wrong on him. But I got to see it again. He's definitely a guy I need to see more. I have to see it again. He's not someone that I will just throw my blind trust at.
Now, Jorge, he's clearly Hollywood has him the highest of all of us. But if you were given a person a reason why to draft Jalen Thompson, Jorge, type of pitch would you give?
I mean, we saw for many years Buddha play that, strong safety position, and last year they decided to put him out in coverage, and they firmly have supplanted Buddha with Jalen Thompson as the strong safety, high tackle volume. Up until Tuesday, I wasn't worried about anything until we all saw, and I think every single one of us tweeted out when we saw Isaiah Simmons was taking snaps with the secondary. That, of course, probably is nothing to really be worried about. But and speaking of not being worried about, I just like the tackle volume from Jalen Thompson. And there's most importantly, there hasn't been any talk around the water cooler, around mini camps and OTAs that they're going to be playing him differently than they played him last year. So I don't see why there isn't a reason to expect, maybe not the same production, but similar production. I mean, he had 121 total tackles. Does he get that? Maybe not. Does he get at least 100 or so? Yeah, I could see that happening.
That's very.
He's a very efficient tackler too. So
yeah. Hollywood, anything to add to that? Since you have him at 2, you think there's still room to go?
Redraft. Yeah, I mean, and I'm kind of split on some of these things because I see what Mike's saying, but long term, I don't know that you take that risk. I don't quite see it. Redraft, he did it last year, right? He had the impact plays that you like to see, 3 interceptions, 7 pass deflections, 3 TFLs. So those are there. But like Jorge said, does he have 120 plus? Maybe not, but I think you can lock him in for 100. And I don't know that having Buddha next to him really hurts him because I think they're 2 different players. I think you can kind of switch them around a little bit. And I guess right now I'm thinking if you've got him on your roster, you're rolling with him, right? So, 100 tackle guy, I think the impact plays are there for this year. Yeah, I think he's your guy. If he can repeat, like Mike said, if he can repeat last year's production, I'm flipping him. I'm flipping him somewhere else because there's more safeties on my list at a better value that I'd rather have. So, as Mike said, if he can repeat this, then you'll buy into it. Yeah, but if he repeats it, I'm flipping him because that's 2 years in a row of good production. I'm getting what I need to get out of him.
Yeah, I just always wonder if that's, is it too good to be true, so you want to get rid of it, or if you just strictly look outside of the name and you just look at, like you mentioned, the 121 tackles, a
you take
12.3%,
10%, that's 12. So 12 off 121 is 109. He's still a 100 tackle guy. And
I'm not worried about the
if you get 100, if you get 100 tackles, I'm okay with that, right?
Well, of course, I'm not dogging him. I'm actually building up the case that I think that maybe it might even be not necessarily the worst dynasty play either at his age. With such limited opportunity prior to come out and actually have the big season where you had a total tackle rate of 12%, and yet the solo tackle rate of 8%, which is, elite compared to anybody else in that top 15, top 10, and a missed tackle rate of 5.5. So
I think I would be more concerned with Buddha right now than I would Jalen, because 2 years ago, right? Buddha was where Jalen was.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
As far as, production.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
You know what I'm saying? Well, maybe 3 years ago was when the big year was. But even 2 years ago, he was no slouch. So why all of a sudden the drop-off for Buddha going from probably a top 5 to outside the top 5 when Thompson's kind of entered the top 5? Now, I don't know. Those two are this was kind of tricky for me. So I was kind of curious to what you guys were thinking or your thought process was on those. I'm not saying I'm right. I was just curious to what your thought was.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I know this is shit analysis, but
there are mothers watching, Nate. Jesus, come on.
I know that's true. Sorry, Doug. But I just don't trust it is a fair reason for a person who's done it for 1 year. It's, the antithesis of why do you trust Grant Delpit after not doing it and signs is because you see something that you believe in. And I don't know if I have, Jalen Thompson at 2 is high. Jalen Thompson at 4. I think collectively our group redraft rankings for Jalen Thompson probably has to be an industry high, I would guess, if we put all 4 of them together. Mike's is going to drag us down just a little bit.
I got him at 2. Jorge's got him at 4. You've got him at what? 13?
11. 13, 12.
Or 11. Yeah, 12. Sorry. And then Mike's got him off.
As low as 30, I heard. But that will change after you heard these compelling arguments. Don't worry. We've done our job.
The Jedi mind trick, Mike.
Yeah. We have just
I'm Jabba the Hutt. I can't. Your Jedi mind tricks aren't going to work on me.
Well, the kid goes where I go.
Nice. Are we starting that trend now where we're going to be doing Mandalorian quotes every episode?
Sure. Why not?
Nice.
Well, Jabba was Jedi, but
yeah, the Hutt family of whatever their names were on Mandalorian. Interesting thing. So I have just one last person that we need to talk about here is I think we collectively gang up on Hollywood and tell him why Jeremy Chin is top 15 when Hollywood you don't have him in your top 15. What you're welcome to make an argument against if you'd like to start off.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead. Lead the way.
Jorge knows this. I'm a biased individual when it comes to it. I've been driving the train of the Jeremy Chin bandwagon since really before he even signed with Carolina. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that he went to SIU where I did, and a little homerism there. And then it just happens that he does, even more than what I could have ever envisioned with 100+ tackles as a rookie, 3 tackles for a loss, the 5 quarterback hits and the 5 passes defensed and multiple forced fumbles in that rookie season. A stat filler doesn't begin to explain the type of player that, that he can be. The one concern I had was that the missed tackles and the missed tackle rate was going to affect that second season. And, he increased his solo tackles. He increased the solo to assist tackle rate, had more pressure behind the line of scrimmage. The crazy thing is his pressures and his pressure efficiency, well, his win rate, if you want to call that, and everything, didn't translate to more sacks. And I think that that's the next step that he can take. I think his sack volume could actually, realistically, I don't want to say triple because that's probably just playing a little guessing game, honestly, but he's among the league leaders in basically almost every pressure stat from a safety. And I don't know, Jorge, Mike, you guys have anything to add on Jeremy Chin that maybe I'm leaving out that should build credence besides the 510 snaps he had in the box last year?
Well, everybody that was tweeting about Jeremy Chin last year. Chin, what's going on? He stinks. In my scoring, he finished as a DB4 in a down year.
Yeah.
He still averaged well over 13 points a game. The beginning of the season, he had some rough spots. But he still finished as the DB4. I can't imagine what would happen if he actually improves his missed tackles and gets some sacks, and converts those pressures into sacks. So still finished with 108 tackles. Like I said, finishes a DB4. So with Curry Willis retiring, it kind of bumps everybody up, and he's a pretty, he's a point producer.
So just to give some reference to DB4 in Mike's settings, we go over to Fantasy Pros, their IDP scoring. He finished 15th. For ours, he finished
14.
14, thank you. And with IDP 1, 2, 3 higher. So it's, again, folks, we need to really reiterate here. It's easy to lose track of fantasy when we're talking about IDP, which is ironic. Play to your scoring settings when you're doing your player evals here.
Well, and if I'm looking at that, and there I've taken names, and I'm just checking off number 1 first and foremost, Xavier Woods gone off that list. He was number 9 overall. I can't, even in our scoring format, I'm not going to push Xavier Woods into my top 20 or anything to leave him up there. Trayvon Diggs, another one that I'm eliminating from that group simply because I don't think that the interception rate from him last year was so unattainable. He's on my do not draft list, basically, not to go into our people we don't like or anything like that. But then, Jalen Ramsey and JC Jackson are right there above them. I'm going to probably take the safer floor out of with Chen over those two. Again, not knocking with them, but I think it's just, again, I think he's pretty, and I don't care if you guys don't think he's as pretty as I do. I'm going to draft him, and he's going to be on my teams if I can have a chance. Is there anybody else that we didn't have a chance to talk about that you guys want to make a case for, build a case for, talk down to? Now's your time. Hollywood, I know you had some beef with Mike earlier.
I do. I'm, and it's not really a beef. I'm curious because I feel like he's going to come at me with what I hear from everybody. So we ranked our top 15. Why is Kevin Byard not on your list? Tell me what it is.
Tell me why.
Oh, that's easy because I'm spiting you.
Oh, well, okay. Well, that's fine.
I'm doing it out of spite.
It's clear. It's clear. Okay.
Purely out of spite.
Okay. I got you.
Hilarious.
I love the spite answer personally. I think that is you don't have.
I'm
to
okay with the spot. I'm okay with that. But
Jorge, do you want to?
we were
talk
kind of
shit
talking off
trash to me?
before the show. A lot of people says he can't keep up the interception production, right? And all but 1 year he's done that. I mean, every year he gets the 5, 6, 7, 8 interceptions. That's just what he does. He's a high volume tackler. Kenny Vaccaro, Amani Hooker, it doesn't matter who's playing beside him, he's still getting his. I was just curious to why Mike didn't have him in the top 15. And I'm not saying he's wrong. I was just curious because I would have Byard.
You do
I've
have
got
Byard
him above
at 7.
I do. I'd have him above Abram. I'd have him above Moore, Delpit. And maybe he's thinking Delpit. I get it. That just kind of puzzled me that he didn't have Byard in his 15. I'm not saying put him in the top 5, but he's got to be. He's safety 1, right, or DB 1.
I have him in my DB2 tier.
Eesh.
I have my DB2 tier.
That should be a fun one to follow as the season goes.
We'll have to see.
I used to like you. You know that, right?
Came down a little bit last year. What's that?
I used to like you. You know that, right?
No, I know.
Okay. Well, friends off.
So I have a question for Mike in Hollywood. Why do you guys? What are your thoughts on Jaron Curse? I look at this in Dallas. I look at his 1,000 snaps on the season, 101 tackles, tackle rate of 10%, missed tackle rate of 3.8, and 10 passes defense. Dan Quinn is still the defensive coordinator. 1 year level of production, but I see Jaron Curse. I see, has Dan Quinn safety like he had with Keanu O'Neal in Atlanta. Why are you all out on Jaron Curse in your top 15?
I have him at 17, and I've got Byard at 20. So I've got Byard just on the cusp.
God.
Got him just on the cusp, and I've got Chris at 17.
What about you, Hollywood?
Well, I mean, I've got I've got him in my tier 2, 16 through 30. That's where I'd have him. Mike, smooth jazz. I'm so disappointed in you right now. I thought we were bros.
You have a problem with him being in my top? I've got him in my top 20.
He had a problem with me having him at 15. I
got him in my top 20. I mean, if I had him like at 35, all right.
I had him at 9, Hollywood, just letting you know. He's in the top 20.
I love you, Jorge. Love you, bro.
So from now on, I'm not even going to rank in terms of 1 through 15. I'm just going to put total projected points. And then when you see that I have Kevin Byard at 196 projected points and you have him at 201, you're going to say, oh, well, that's only 5 points difference. Well, that 5 points difference is a separation between 8 and 15 in a lot of the scoring formats.
Just for that, only I'm going to rank Minkah Fitzpatrick ahead of Kevin Byard now. I'm going to put Kevin Byard at like 36.
Oh, you're such an asshole.
Suck so bad when it's just the spite rankings, which we'll have to have a separate rankings page.
Hey, if you saw Curb Your Enthusiasm, I was all about the spite store.
Oh, I love the spite store.
You know what?
That was great.
The fact that Mike doesn't have Byard in the top 15 and his spot is on point, I'm going to let it slide.
Well, I can tell you, if his team name in the 4i championships doesn't have something to do with Kevin Byard and or Magic Mike dancing name, I will be greatly disappointed.
I'm just going to go ahead and name my team now. Kevin Byard is not a DB2.
Oh, shit.
And then draft him. We're going to put you and Hollywood in the same league, and then you draft him, just snipe him right before.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to just draft him as my DB1. He's going to be my DB1. He'll be the first DB I
take. I'm telling you right now, I will straight lose my shit on every one of y'all.
I can't wait. You heard it here first.
Then I have to do it. Oh, I have to do it now.
Oh,
I'm not in it for winning. I'm not in it for winning. I'm in it for Hollywood losing this shit.
And just to throw to stoke the flames, if I was to ever draft AJ Brown, I would ask him. I would send a trade offer to you, Hollywood, just to dig it in a little bit more. Miss your guy,
fun, you guys. I gotta tell you, couldn't have put together. a more spiteful group. And yes,
You know what?
That's right.
I ain't hating
Yes,
that.
yes.
I ain't hating that, Sean. I ain't hating that. No, I'm not hating that.
That's
Nice.
wonderful. I love that. Look at that. They even get the inside jokes and the hate
Mhm.
and everything else.
Very nice, Sean.
Guys, I think
All right, just for that, I'm not going to rank Kevin Byard. Kevin Byard now is on the rank.
he's not even rankable. He's behind.
Cross him off the list.
I am moving Daniel Sorensen ahead of Kevin Byard right now.
Oh man.
And he's not even on my top 59, so
Wow.
I can't do that. I'd have to go in.
You know,
I'd have to physically add him.
Me and
to my
Mike. This is how me and Mike plays, but that was a low blow, Nate. You're out.
I know.
You're out.
It hurt me to say that. Like I don't even feel good with myself.
Wow.
I feel dirty.
You
I
do.
want
You
to
should.
go back
All
right
people.
now.
Out of all the
You
people that, yeah.
It's gross.
Clorox and a scrub brush. You need to go right now.
I need some lye.
Smooth Jazz is throwing hands. Don't. I may have this gorgeous exterior and the smooth voice, but man,
Sexy dance moves.
and the dance moves to match. But boy, I'll throw
Now
hands
go-
when I need to.
Now go purify yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka.
Exactly.
And we'll go have some pancakes.
I was getting ready to say, game blouses.
Exactly.
Well, everyone, for Mike and Holly. Actually, anybody that listen, obviously, if you made it through this long, you probably follow all of us anyway, and you probably pay attention to all of our IDP rankings and content over at Fantasy and Frames. But go check out Hollywood Titan at Mike_Wohlert at Jorge B. Edwards. I am Nate Markham. Find my stuff at Nate Markham. And if you have any questions, we're going to have I believe, coming up soon, we will have a question and answer type podcast exclusively. So get any questions you have in. If you have rankings about linebacker, defensive back, defensive end, edge, or your own personal spite rankings, please send them to us. We would love to spite your league mates, your friends, live on the air, and basically just build animosity around the IDP landscape in fantasy football, because everybody loves hate. So for Silky Johnson, Ashley Larry, you guys have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Peace.